Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes, and I'd love to welcome here Mike Shouse, who has a new album out called Jaded. And I'll say I am really excited to talk to you because, man, I fell in love with the music right off the bat. We drove around listening to it over and over again, and I'll just say it's badass.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you. That's a big compliment, and I really made it to where it's meant to be, where you drive around and listen to it. I try to make music that's where I listen to my music, drive around
Right,
the cars.
right. Well, tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Mike Shouse. Like you said, I'm from Eastern Kentucky originally, from a small town called Jackson, Kentucky, and it's one of the poorest counties in the country. If not we had a big flood years ago and wiped out a lot of people that had to move out, and it was national news. But we've got some pretty big people from here. We got Sturgill Simpson, Grammy, artist. Our vice president's family is from here, and Jeffrey Reddick, who wrote the Final Destination movies, the first one and started that, is from here. So I guess seeing those people gives us hope, people like me, that we can get out and do stuff and and put it out there nationally. So I was like I said, born and raised here, went to Hollywood in '92 to g.i.t, came back and had to start teaching full time to just pay the bills. And that's what I've done for the last 28 years, and I'm retired now. So I've had that time to start recording again. And I'm taking care of my parents currently, moved back home to help them out. I was living in the city, but now I'm back here helping them. So being here, though, gave me that time where I'm just, helping them and sitting around. I got the studio hooked up and started recording this album from little ideas that I've came up with over the last few years of it's been hard on everybody, I think, the last few years with COVID. And I had a house fire that burned up all my stuff after the last CD, and then had a breakup that really affected me. And then I bought a lake house and put a lot of time into that for like 7 years, and increased the square footage. And pretty much I dove into that project, and I didn't play much during that time. I pretty much almost given up on recording, but I was still every now and then coming up with little ideas, and I'd record it on my phone and forget about it. Next month I'd come up with another idea and same thing. And then, so when I recorded, I just pulled all those ideas out, and that's where this album came from.
I wanted to ask you, where did you come up with the title Jaded?
Well, I like to name my albums after a song that's on the album. So this one, the Jaded song, kind of, I'm a hopeless romantic, and after you lose love of your life, you're a little jaded, you tread lightly. And so I thought, and plus I always put my name. I want to put my name up there on the album, and I did it in the jaded, the stone, the green stone jade, and then I carved the word jaded out of that. So I thought it had a juxtaposition, a multiple play on words there. So that's why I named it after that song.
And how did you get hooked up with guys like Tony McAlpine and Bumblefoot?
Dude, it's weird. Like Michelangelo came to Lexington where I was living, and I just came out with my last instrumental album in 2010, and he was doing a thing at the guitar store where I taught. And so I met him and I gave him a copy of the CD. Just say, hey man, check me out. I'm a nobody. You're a god. And he said, okay. And I thought, I'll never hear nothing. Well, he listened to it on the way from Lexington to Louisville. It was an hour drive, so he put it in the car and listened to it. He messaged me on Facebook, said, I loved it. Great, cool. I was like, awesome. So we've kind of still kept in touch over the last 15 years. I'll message him and say, talking about whatever he's doing, and he's replied back. So I had that contact with him. Bumblefoot was a little weirder how I got in touch with him. I went to see him in Cleveland. He was opening for Yngwie Malmsteen, him and Gary Hoy, of all people. They were all three on the lineup. Drove 8 hours one way, got there, got the hotel and everything, and Yngwie canceled the concert an hour before the show because I guess he didn't sell enough tickets. So of course we were all very upset, and that was back 2010. You think it's bad now? Everybody was going online and just destroying them. How dare you? And I was one of them. I got on there and said, "Dude, we drove 8 hours." Well, Bumblefoot is the nicest man on the planet, by the way. If you haven't never talked to him or met him, so he replies personally to the people that were complaining.
Right.
And he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm sorry. This wasn't our fault. I'll send you some swag. I'll send you a T-shirt, a hat, or whatever." And I said, "No, I'll tell you what. Let me send you a copy of my CD." And he said, "Okay." And so the same thing, I mailed it to him, and he replied, "Hey, Dad, I loved it. Great job." And so we've kind of also kept in touch through Facebook over the years. So when it came time to think about guests, I thought, man, these are really the only two guys I know that I've got a communication with. Do I want to jeopardize that? I thought, if I ask them, they're going to block me and say. But I messaged them and they both said yes. So that's how I got them. And then getting them, I messaged Tony McAlpine and Paul Gilbert and Greg Howe. And of course, Tony said yes. And then Paul Gilbert couldn't because he was busy at Mr. Big Stuff at the time. And Greg Howe never got back until after the CD was done. And now he's going to be on the next album. So I've got him on the next song I'm working on. So
Whoa.
yeah, so it just kind of did, one after the other, and one helped me get the other, I'm sure. And so yeah, I love it that these guys, like I said, these are guys I grew up listening to, man. These are guys I read the magazines and bought their
Right.
CDs, and watched their videos, and watched their instructional videos. And now these guys are at a point, I guess, in their life where they're doing session work and playing on people's stuff, I guess, to compensate financial stuff. And so I'm blessed, dude. I'm just, if you'd have told me a few years ago I'd had these guys playing on the album, I'd have laughed in your face. So, but that's how I got.
Man, you never know. I mean, you just take
Yeah.
a chance. The worst thing they can say is no, right?
Right, they can just block you, ignore you, or not reply. That's.
Right. I happened to message Rudy Sarzo
Oh yeah.
and just said I'll take a chance. I mean, most of the time they just ignore your messages.
Right.
But Rudy wrote back to me and said, "Yeah, I'll be on your show." And I was tripping out. And then we've been friends ever since. And you think, wow, I grew up with your poster
Yeah.
on my wall.
In
And
several bands that he was in.
right, White Snake, Quiet Riot, Ozzy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And a guy like Tony, and mind you, he's brilliant. That guy is brilliant.
Oh my
But
god.
I didn't really get into his music until I saw him on tour with Steve Vai.
Yeah, when the G3 tour, that was big. That was like a G4 tour for me. I was like, man, you got Tony and Steve. Tony could have filled that spot, and just fine. So
But man, to have someone of that caliber to play with you, that I don't even know how I'd react.
like I said, it's kind of disbelief. What was funny is because Ron he's got an instrumental album out, and it came out a few months ago, and he had Steve Vai playing on his, and Guthrie Govan and Brian May, all these even bigger than them, and I was like, dude, that's when I was like, maybe I should ask him and Michelangelo, and but like I said, yeah, I got the. You're just, you're thinking, they're going to say no, like you said, they're going to just ignore me. And I didn't. And then, well, that night, thanks to a little Kentucky bourbon, I grew a pair and I messaged them both. I literally did them both, the same message, copy paste, changed the name on the message, and they both replied back, "Oh, I'd love to." And I was just like, so.
But that says something to your talent.
Well, I hope so. I hope they're not just desperate for money.
No, I mean seriously. I told my wife. I said, "Hey, the guys over at Glass Onion sent me this music, and I wanted you to check it out too." And a lot of times she's pretty critical of the stuff I listen to because I'm a big Zappa
Right.
fan, and
All right.
I like instrumental stuff like what you play.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and she's like, "Wow, I can get into this." I said, "I know this is pretty cool, huh?" And I said, I reached out to see if he'd come on the show, and we're both like, "Please, please, please."
When I write, I'm a big. I was a Satriani fan from way back, and he's actually who made me want to be an instrumental artist. I never wanted to play really in a band, or even I grew up in the '80s. I loved all the '80s guitar players, and it was like if you had a great guitar player, that's who I liked. But Satriani, his thing was, how does he write all these songs? How do they all sound different? How are they all in multiple key changes? My thing was, how does he do it? How does he know? What does he know? And that was my goal in life, was to figure out all the theory and all the how-to. And so, same with him. I focus on melody. I try to do simpler rhythms, because there's people that do a lot of integral stuff that are really just for guitar player fans.
Right.
What I'm saying? Like, if you're not a guitar player, you're not going to like that music. I try to do stuff that kind of bridges that gap. It's a little both. I try to have simpler melodies, simpler rhythms, intricate guitar playing in the solo parts, so that people that aren't necessarily fans of instrumental guitar will hopefully also appreciate it.
But do you go through bouts of inspiration? Is there something that just makes you say, "Hey, I got to go over here and write something"?
Man, it comes and goes, and I'm an artist too. I was an art teacher for 28 years. It just when it hits you, and sometimes literally I'll be laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and something will pop in my head. It's like, what if you played an A mixolydian and you switch these keys. Oh, they've had these same intervals in common, and then I'll jump up and go, and figure it out. And then sometimes, oh, that sounds like crap. That didn't work. And sometimes, oh yeah, and then and it just really whenever it hits you, and it could be any time. I could be driving down the road and just be thinking, and that's how it comes. I really don't sit and bang out stuff sometimes, but mostly it's just it'll hit me mentally. I'll be thinking of theory or thinking of a melody or thinking of a rhythm, and then I'll bang it out with a guitar, not even plugged in. And if I like it, I'll set my phone up and record that. Then I'll forget it, and then like I said, months later, though, I'll go back and pull those videos up. Oh yeah, I got to remember how to do that now, and I'll try to make a whole 4 or 5 minute, 6 minute song out of that. So that's how it comes about.
Well, your guitar playing has gotten you on a few compilation CDs, and I've read you even got to go over to Australia.
I didn't get a go, but they premiered the video for "Alone on the Sun," and it
Oh,
was. I was on a few radio stations that were playing Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. I was in their circulation back then, so yeah, it was called "Guitar Gods and Masterpieces." It was a TV show. Like I said, that was 2010, so I don't think it exists anymore. But yeah, that was pretty cool. They reached out to me and said, hey, we like it. Would like to show this video on here. I was like, yeah.
well, we come around and we talk about all these guitar greats, and I've mentioned Steve Vai several times. You thought about maybe reaching out to those guys as well?
It'd be hard. Like I said, those guys, see, like the two, I literally could just message them on Facebook. And like with Tony, he was hard to get up with because I had to go through his management. The
Right.
management, they don't get back to you as quick. Like Greg Howe, like I said, I thought he just blew me off. And then later the guy's like, hey, I'm his new guy that does this. Yes, he would love to play on it. Sorry about that. I wouldn't know how to get up with Steve. I guess I would have to go through some management.
Right.
I don't know if I could ask Steve I and I could afford Steve I, it'd be great. Uh, how you do that. I don't know yet, but like I said, I've got Greg Howe lined up. I'm also wanting to get Stu Ham to play bass.
Oh,
So he's doing session work. So I think if I get Greg to play on a song, I'll ask Stu to step in and do a guest bass on a song on the next one.
oh, wow, that would be friggin' awesome.
I know. See, I love Stu back, like I said, the early Satriani days. That was the
Right.
thing, Stu Ham. And, I've got James Pulley on this one. He plays for Kristen Pelletteri's band in Pelleteri, and he's a Metal Hall of Famer. And he's in a band. He's got a cover band called Bonfire, and they're opening up for Zach Wild's band, Black Sabbath, or Zach Sabbath. And they're going to come around in November, so I got to go meet him finally because he's in L.A. I'm in, Kentucky. He's in L.A. I've never met him. So I'll finally get to meet James and shake his hand and take a picture. And
Wow.
so that's the weird thing about me is I live here in Eastern Kentucky. I record in a guest bedroom that I've made into a studio. I send to the drummer in New York, Charlie Cellini, by the way, he's one of the best around. Then I'll take a mix of that and send it to L.A. to the bass player, get all the mixes. And then I'll take it to Nashville. Billy Decker is the mix and master. He got like 16 number one hits, but they're all country. But he loves rock and metal. It's so funny. And he pretty much is a friend. He does it for nearly nothing. But he did my last CD. That's how I met him, and I met him through a friend that does do country music. But he loves rock, so he's like, yeah, he makes all his money from the country stars. Like he was doing something with Chad Koger from Nickelback the other day. So he's getting all these big people to pay him a lot of money, so he can do stuff for people like me that don't have a lot of money. So because he likes rock music.
Right, right. And that's crazy, and it's awesome how you can go meet one person, and that leads to another person, and plus our technology today. I mean, back in our childhood, you would write to, a fan club or what
Right.
have you, and you were never going to talk to those guys. But
Yeah.
I mean, the way technology is now, you might get lucky, get their email, or might even hit them up on social media, and it has its ups and downs. Like you're able to play a track, record it, and then another person somewhere else, they can add theirs to it. And some people do that, and it sounds like it's created like that.
Right.
But
I
then
don't.
some folks, like what you've done, it sounded like y'all were in the same room jamming together.
And dude, what's weird is like Charlie, like I said, he was on my last album. I had three drummers. I had a guy from New York, LA, and Nashville. So that's just the drummers. And then I had eight bass players from all over the world. I had them from Europe and, Italy and whatever. They were all from all over. So that was my first, step into trying that.
Right.
And I really wanted each song, like I said, my thing is to make each song sound totally different from the last. I don't want multiple songs. Because, you listen to AC/DC, I love AC/DC. Every song, you know what you're going to get. They all sound kind of similar, Metallica. So I want to make sure all my stuff sounds different. So that helped because you got a different bass player in every single song. They're using different techniques. They have different sounds. Same with the drummers. Well, in this one, Charlie was my favorite of those three drummers. He's like a metronome, a human metronome. He really is. And he gets me. Like I'll send him something and he will spit back exactly what I was wanting him to. Every now and then I gotta say, don't do this here, do that there, change this. But after a couple songs, I don't have to tell him nothing. Like we just click for some reason. And then James, luckily on this, he's the same way. He was just I sent it to him. He knows what he's doing. He gets the music. He works for Chris and Pelleri, for God's sakes. I grew up listening to Chris, studied his videos to learn how to play three note per string and sleep arpeggios. I mean, he's been around. They've made like 20 some odd CDs and tour all the time. So those guys are same with Stu Ham. He's just going to do the best, and you're not going to have any problems with what he does. So I think that's a lot of it. Is these guys are so professional, been around for so long. They're not going to do anything that's not going to sound great.
Well, another part of the ups and downs is the upside. You get to put your stuff out there, like with YouTube and all these other platforms, so people are exposed to you. But at the same time, it's harder for you to really make money off of it because,
Yeah.
I mean, look at even with Spotify, what do you get? Maybe a cent for every time somebody plays
Or
your music?
I think it's 0.03 of cents.
Right, right, right.
That's not even a cent. It's like, yeah.
So, I mean, what do you do to really make it in this business, money wise?
I'm retired. I get a check every month. So what's good about it now is I don't have to depend on it to make money. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? I'm doing it out of pure love for just wanting to do it and wanting
right,
to put out the music for people to hear. And like it's just like I told somebody, it's like having children. Yeah, nobody might not listen to this. I might not get anything out of this, but they're out there. 100 years from now, somebody might find that and think, "Oh, I love this album." I mean, I don't know, but I'm not doing it for the money. It'd be nice to, make a bunch of money. But like I said, I'm here in Eastern Kentucky helping my parents. If somebody said, "Hey, man, here's a bunch of money, go on a tour right now," I couldn't do it.
right,
Right now, and it's not going to be too much longer. It's the double-edged sword. I want them to live forever, but I know they're not, and so I'm just kind of in a waiting hold right here until everything resolves itself. But while I'm here, though, I'm recording. Like I said, I've got 5 tracks already for the next album that I plan on to release next year, and working on, like I said, the song for Greg Howe and Stu Ham. And then I'll do some other weird song. But yeah, you'll like the vocals on the new album. I've got a singer from Spain, and she sounds like shoot, what's her name? Hailstorm. She sounds like Lizzie
wow.
Hale.
Oh,
She's
wow.
great. And I've got and check this. I've got I've got a Americana folk song with just acoustic guitar and a singer, and he sounds like, he sounds like these guys that are out now. I can't think of their name, but he's got that very folksy country twang. So I've got a country folk song, which has got slide guitar for the solo, and then I've got the female screaming singer on a metal song, and then I've got her also singing on another song that's kind of almost like a Broadway. It's very eclectic. Like I said, every song is going to be totally different from the other songs you hear. So,
Oh wow, I'm looking forward to it, man. Really am.
so
Well, are you gonna be playing any clubs or anything like that?
like I said, I live in Eastern Kentucky. There's nowhere to play that. If I thought I could play out here and it'd be worth my time to get ready, haul my equipment, get up there and play, and make enough money to make it worth it, I would do it. There's nowhere around here locally. My dream would be to open up for guys like a G3 tour, or the amount of the guys that come around and tour, just to be an opener, jump up there and play 3 songs with a backing track. That would be cool to get, because that way there's people there that want to hear instrumental guitar, right? And
Right.
you're introducing yourself to them if they don't know who you are. You get up in a bar in Kentucky, and if you're not playing Sweet Home Alabama, you're going to get booed off. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody
Yeah.
there going to want to hear what an instrumentalist. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And I've done that. When 2004, I had my first release. I went out and had a 3-piece band and played out, and it was that same thing. I mean, I enjoyed it, but if you're not playing the local radio hits, or the oldies, nobody cares. Now they're not there to hear. They're not there to hear that. They're there to drink and hear some songs they like hearing. So,
Mike, do you have a website?
yeah, it's my name, Mike Shouse, and it's spelled like house with an S in the front. So it's MikeShouseMusic.com, and it has everything where you can buy it, download it, stream it, all my reviews so far. It'll have this podcast on there once it's posted, and so anything about me will be on that.
Right. And what all social media do you have?
I've got it Spotify. Well, I'm on Spotify, but it'll be TikTok, Instagram, X. And what's funny is I wasn't on any of that stuff. I haven't been on that stuff for years. I kind of just got away from all that stuff, but
Yeah.
I've got back on it now. So I'm hoping to get more followers, because I literally just started it up, a few weeks ago. But I'm on everything pretty much. If you look me up, I'm on everything. So
Well, I'm going to put all your links in the description just to make it easier for folks to find you. But
awesome.
man, Mike, this has really been an honor, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Well, dude, hey, it's been an honor, and thank you for asking me, man. It's been a pleasure.
And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button from our regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.